Hey guys, what's going on? Blaine back for another Netflix review, and today I'm going to be talking about Codename Emperor. Codename Emperor is a Spanish spy thriller that tells the story of Juan, an agent who operates between two separate units in his agency, the first of which is dedicated to framing a politician, while the other is looking into various illegal activities, including the possibility of deadly arms trafficking in Spain. He befriends and eventually becomes romantically involved with the maid of a German couple suspected of being involved in arms trafficking, while he finds himself juggling the task of framing the politician at the same time. Throughout all of this, he finds himself teetering on the line of morality of what's good and bad. I have to be honest and say that I had a very hard time following along with and understanding what happened in this movie. It starts off on the right foot, but it gradually becomes more confusing with the increasing number of narrative threads it tries to weave, which results in a complicated mess. The main character Juan is probably the best thing about the movie. He's a resourceful character who does his best to cover his bases and extract information from others, but he never comes off as sadistic. Instead, he's more calm and level-headed in his approach, which fits the persona of an agent quite well. He is brutal in his methods to framing situations and getting what he wants, conjuring up lies to hide the truth from the general public, and frequently blackmailing others to suit his purposes. The way he does all this with a cold, calculating exterior was very intriguing, especially when glimpses of his warmer side start to show. One can tell that he carries a lot of weight on his shoulders with all the moral dilemmas he has to deal with in his job. He does his best to make things up for the right people, but he knows that not everything can have a happy ending, and the way he wrestles with this aspect of his job is interesting to see. However, it becomes difficult to stay focused on his morality when so much is going on in the story. It didn't take long for me to be confused at the nature of Juan's work, as the goals of the story are not immediately evident, and when they are, they don't make any sense. I had no idea what kind of organization Juan was supposed to be working for, if it was police or government or some sort of private organization. There was just no clue given regarding the background of Juan's line of work, and things only got more mystifying from there. The movie is not smooth in how it juggles between the arms trafficking and the politician angles. Half the time, I couldn't even tell what angle the movie was supposed to be focusing on until case-specific characters appeared on camera, and these characters themselves are quite baffling. There's too many characters to keep track of, and most only appear in one or two scenes to fulfill their one role to the plot, and then they just vanish for the rest of the movie. It's confusing enough to keep track of characters, but the amount of exposition they drop makes things even worse. The movie features things like drugs, human trafficking, and even nuclear bomb material being sold for terrorism. These elements could have been interesting for the plot if there was some sort of focus, but because the story goes back and forth so much, nothing ever has any proper build-up behind it. Now, in a spy film, it's natural to have some degree of slowness to the plot, as the characters try to gather intel and figure out what's going on. This slow burn tension is present in the beginning and did a good job at drawing me into Juan's world, but eventually this tension fizzles out and never comes back. The movie is just way too slow with how its events proceed. There's plenty of characters sneaking around and gathering intel, and it's all suspenseful to a point, but nothing ever comes out of it. Juan and other characters rarely suffer any consequences for their actions, so there's not much of a reason to care about what happens to them. The only character I felt any sort of sympathy for was Wendy, the maid of the German couple who Juan suspects are arming terrorists. She works hard to fulfill her and her sister's dream of opening a tourist spot in her native country of Philippines and gets caught up in Juan's work despite being innocent. Her character actually has an arc that's easy to understand amidst everything else that's going on. But even she isn't safe from the movie's odd conventions. There's a romance that happens between her and Juan, who she knows as Alex, and in my opinion it feels incredibly forced. I get that Juan is using her as a means to an end, at least at first, but the way her feelings for her build over time is just lazy. It happens way too soon into the movie, and it's not enough to make me care more about Juan. Out of the two story angles that Juan pursues, the politician angle is definitely the easier one to follow. I can't fully explain why, but there's just something about the mystery behind what he may or may not be up to that did a better job of drawing me in, although it still suffers from all the other problems I mentioned. Conversely, the arms trafficking angle was a disaster, and I say arms trafficking because it's the most commonly mentioned element out of all the illegal things that Juan investigates. This angle comes as close to being pointless as possible, with plot threads that are directionless and characters who have no purpose. The movie is in desperate need of some actual stakes behind its story, where people, including Juan, are in danger of bad things happening to them. There are a few tense action and chase scenes that are enjoyable while they last, but they're not enough to hold one's attention. It's a shame because all of the ingredients are there to make a solid spy flick. It has a persistent dark atmosphere with its nighttime cinematography and sinister soundtrack, which all convey a bleak tone that is perfect for a conspiracy-laden story where the truth is shrouded in darkness. There's a variety of international locales that shake up the setting of the story as well, which are nice to see, but just like the two plot angles, they feel awkwardly implemented. Scenes will abruptly change from place to place without warning, which only made it more difficult to keep track of what Juan was supposed to be doing. It almost feels like a sequel to a movie that nobody has seen yet. It just seems like the audience is expected to know everyone and understand everything that's happening, which left me feeling lost the entire time I watched it. The parts are there to make a fun spy movie, but it never adds up to a cohesive whole. Overall, Codename Emperor is a disappointing thriller that shows promise in its opening scenes, but it never takes off. If you like spy movies and you don't mind dealing with plots that don't always make sense, you might enjoy this one, but personally, I'll take a James Bond movie any day of the week. It had the potential to be a dark, gritty look into the world of spies and how they face moral dilemmas in their jobs, and there is some of that here, but its messages get muddled by its convoluted plot and purposeless characters. What did you think about this movie? Did you think it was an accurate take on the morality of spies, or were you as confused with the story as I was? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways guys, that's going to wrap up my review of Codename Emperor. Thanks for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it, and as always stay tuned for the next part, where next time I review the Norwegian romantic drama Royalty. Bye bye!